The Leela Manor. A few miles outside the city stood Krishnanagar, a quiet, forgotten place. There, surrounded by wild overgrowth and eerie silence, stood an ancient estate known as Leela Manor, though its true name was Prabhu Alay. The locals called it Leela because of the stories, the strange, unholy stories whispered through generations. No houses stood nearby. No one dared to live close. Yet once a family, descendants of an old royal bloodline, had made that crumbling palace their home. The villagers believed them cursed. No one visited, and the family rarely ventured out. Even in daylight, people avoided the path that led past Leela Manor. Years ago, a young shepherd once sought shade beneath a tree near the mansion. He never returned. Others claimed to have seen colorful fish in the old estate pond, but anyone who tried to catch them vanished without a trace. Over time, Leela Manor was abandoned, its wealth and glory swallowed by silence and fear. But in recent years, the villagers had noticed movement again. Dim shadows, faint lights, and the distant creak of doors. A small Muslim family had taken residence there, though no one knew who they were. They spoke to no one, and no one spoke to them. Some whispered they were not human at all, but jinn, spirits that wore human skin. The family consisted of an old man, his frail wife, and their son, Mansur. Mansur had been studying in the city, so few in the village recognized him. When his exams ended, he invited his best friend, Niloy, to visit him at Leela Manor for 15 days. From the moment they approached the mansion, Niloy's heart pounded. The house loomed large and broken, its walls covered in vines and moss. Even in broad daylight, the rooms were filled with shadow, as if the sun itself refused to enter. As Niloy stepped through the front door, he hit his head on a loose brick from the archway. It crumbled and fell. He winced in pain, but didn't bleed. Before he could react, Mansur's parents rushed over. "Old house," the father said in a deep, calm voice. "You must be careful, son. Lucky you weren't hurt worse." Niloy forced a smile, though unease crawled through him. Mansur's mother, Tara Begum, was a thin, ghostly woman with silver-white hair and sunken cheeks. Her skin clung to her bones, and when she spoke, her lips trembled as though each word cost her effort. Her eyes seemed hollow, like dark pits. "My son talks about you often. Your mother must be a kind woman, feeding my boy so much." Niloy stared, stunned by her appearance. How could a woman this old have a son Mansur's age? He laughed awkwardly. "Don't say that, Auntie. Mansur's like my brother." But as he looked around the massive, decaying halls, he felt a chill creep over him. Every wall was covered with disturbing murals, naked figures, blood and violence, kings hunting men, women tortured, bodies twisted in agony. Dinner that night was by candlelight, a single, flickering flame that cast long, dancing shadows. Niloy could barely eat. Fear had made his hands tremble. Suddenly, a loud thud came from the window. He screamed, and the candle went out. A sweet, intoxicating fragrance filled the room. Niloy froze. It was unlike anything he'd ever smelled, like the scent of a divine being brushing past him. His limbs went numb. When the candle was relit, everyone sat in silence, pretending nothing had happened. Later, Mansur led Niloy upstairs to his room, a surprisingly clean and well-kept space amid the ruin. The bed was neat, the floor spotless, but the walls were painted with the same terrifying images: kings and naked women, scenes of cruelty and lust. The window creaked in the wind. There was no lock on the door. Niloy lay down, whispering prayers, when something brushed his chest. A bird, flapping wildly. A pigeon. He cried out, but no one came. Exhausted, he fell asleep. In the dead of night, the sound of anklets woke him. Soft, rhythmic, growing closer. The room was filled again with that scent. He couldn't move. A delicate hand touched his forehead, massaging oil into his skin. Long hair brushed across his face. He tried to speak, but his lips wouldn't move. The touch was gentle, almost loving. Then suddenly, his face pressed against the softness of a woman's breast. He gasped. The figure vanished. The anklets faded away. Niloy sat up, trembling. His hair was wet, his forehead slick with oil. This wasn't a dream. It couldn't be. The next day, he woke to find Mansur and his mother sitting by his bed. "You had a fever," Tara Begum said with a faint smile. "Rest, my child. Don't take a bath, you'll catch a cold." Niloy nodded, too uneasy to argue. That afternoon, he and Mansur sat behind the mansion, watching the overgrown garden sway in the wind. "Why didn't you ever tell me your family were landlords?" Niloy asked. Mansur's face darkened. "That was long ago. Our wealth is gone. Now we live like beggars." Niloy laughed. "Beggar? You live in a palace." Then lowering his voice, "But those paintings, the statues, why do you keep them? Aren't you Muslim?" Mansur looked away. "I don't know. They've always been here. Maybe my ancestors can tell you." As the sun dipped behind the trees, a cold gust swept through the garden. Niloy shivered. That night, as they sat down to eat again, the same fragrance filled the air. The sound of anklets echoed faintly from the hall. Mansur's parents didn't flinch. Later, alone in his room, he heard it again. The anklets, slow and steady, approaching his bed. He whispered prayers, heart pounding. Then, a whisper in the dark. "Niloy." He turned and saw Mansur's father standing in the corner, his white hair hanging over his face, his eyes burning red. "Go to sleep," the old man said in a deep, trembling voice. "Don't get up." He froze. The old man vanished into the darkness. Then came a rush of cold air, and something soft fell onto his chest. A pigeon. Its wings flapped weakly, blood soaking through the sheet. He pulled the blanket over his head, trembling. The anklets drew near. Something sat on the edge of his bed. A cold hand reached for his blanket, slowly, gently, then pulled it down. And that's when Niloy realized he was not the only one awake in Leela Manor that night.